See, we are live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Zoom. This is a recording for the podcast, Courageous and Free with Jacqueline Mack. And now we're finally live over here on Instagram. Again, this is a recording for a podcast. So if you have questions, comments, I will get to them. I love them. I think our life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions that we actually ask. And we're jumping right into perseverance. It is the 10th of January. And how perseverance has this fine line with insanity, which I'm a radicalist when it comes to setting goals, attaining goals, radical goals, things that seem impossible for other people. I not only help them attain, experience, achieve, but also for myself. There's so many things that I look back, I'm like, I'm so glad I had the courage and the confidence to muster up and go for it. So that fine line between perseverance and insanity, and when this relates to goal attainment. So the number one factor for attaining any goal in any time frame, this can be a month, a quarter, a year, is the perseverance, to be honest. And my heart was so warmed up when I was at my daughter's karate class in December, and a teacher was like, does anybody know what the definition of perseverance is? And my daughter was the only one that raised her hand. I was like, I don't think I taught her this. I'm like, oh crap. I just didn't think it was due yet, right? In due time. And she raised her hand and she goes, never giving up even when you want to quit. And I was like, oh, yes, that's my daughter. Go you. So proud of her. And I told her later that I was super proud to hear that she knew what that was. And when we just got into some good discussion about when was some times where she just really wanted to give up and didn't, was so glad that she did. And the courage that it takes to acknowledge that, be aware of that, and actually follow through on that. So here's the critical distinction between persevering and crossing into the territory of insanity, which could lead to and has led to burning out for me twice. Especially if you're a high performer, business owner, or if you're in any type of high ticket, high pressure sales, knowing the difference is the key to achieving success without unnecessary frustrations, burnout, or dare I say, regret. So this is part one of a two-part podcast series, because as I was typing out my notes, I realized I had enough to share for 2 episodes. So bear with me. This one will be concise, but full of actionable steps. So first, let's jump into what is perseverance. I've already kind of went over this a little bit, thanks to my daughter and her karate class, but it's the unwavering commitment. Notice I didn't say decision. It's a commitment. And at times requires pivoting to continue to take that aligned action towards a goal, a desire, a result, despite the challenges, the setbacks, and the slow progress. It's all about the consistency and resilience, trusting that success is built over time. This is a trust that's deeper than a faith. I say a religious faith, because real faith, real trust is tested during these times when we are given the option to persevere or to not, right? So here's some signs that you can look at, because when we think about perseverance and where does it turn into insanity, the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Here are some signs to be aware of that could be a telling time that, hey, maybe we're not really persevering. We're actually going into this insanity bucket, right? So when you are refusing to pivot or adapt, and I'm going to jump in part 2, I'm going to go over some really cool stories of some major companies, some online folks who actually knew how to pivot and adapt. They didn't know that's what they were. I mean, they knew they were doing that at the time, but they didn't know that was going to lead to mega success when they were pretty much a successful business from the start. So when you're refusing to pivot or adapt, even when there's evidence showing that the current strategy is not working, right? Again, doing the same thing over and over, expecting something different, or ignoring and not accepting the feedback, the data, or this is my favorite, intuition. Intentional with this, making sure you're being intentional with searching for the feedback, to looking at the data, being intentional with checking in with your intuition. Or if you're feeling stuck, frustrated, or overwhelmed, but continuing the same approach. And you're doing this because it's from fear, right? We don't want to try something new because what's current is predictable and familiar, and what's familiar is predictable. So we're afraid to do something new, which is really just coming from a lack energy or a lack of vibration, which can become habit, which means in time we must break this in order to move forward. Or it will take you down again and again and again and again until you are aware and you intentionally choose to change it and like go ahead and learn that lesson. This is where you can see this in people's business habits. You can see it in people's relationships habits, where they keep doing some of the same things and attracting the same types of people, or getting, receiving, attracting the same type of results, and they're still not happy or fulfilled, right? So, what is this fine line between the two? The perseverance requires what? Discipline. Discipline equals freedom in my world. We get to choose what we're disciplined in. It also requires faith and trusting the process. Now, insanity stems from, again, like I said before, that fear, the pride, the attachment to a specific method, not being open to the how being something different. Again, I really, really landed with this because in my early teens, early 20s, I'm a Taurus by nature. And it's like, I'm a recovering control freak. It's this way or the highway, but there's a million ways to do a million different things out there, right? So detaching from a specific method and rather stay focused on the outcome of that or something better. And that's where I really take my clients to the next level, because they're like, well, I want this outcome. Great. But would you be mad if it was better than that? So let's, again, expect this or something better and detach from the how and be open to the possibility and potentiality of the how being something cooler than we could probably ever even imagine. So when you are clear on this and you learn to create new patterns, new habits from this discipline, the real faith, you can free yourself from these other patterns of insanity. So the key to staying in the zone of perseverance, I'm going to give you a couple keys actually here. But the first one is clarity, right? You can have all the other keys, but if you're not clear on your vision, you don't know your why. This is a knowing in the heart space, the knowing in the body, the feelings of the body. So many people say, well, my mindset, my mindset, my mindset. Okay, yes, there are things to do to tweak the mindset, but where are we taking care of and listening to the feelings of the body? What does a yes feel like? What does a no feel like, right? And knowing your why, knowing it in your body and not just in your head. It's that head heart coherence that I love helping people learn to understand and play with and master when they're doing decision mastery and creating that yes and life by design. So, knowing your why, aligning your actions with the bigger picture, and this is what I call deciding from and living from your vision. I do vision activations all the time for my clients and for people that are just curious on what that is and how to work with me and moving forward. But this is step one, the awareness, the clarity of the vision. When you do this, it's wise to also be flexible with, obviously, the how. Notice I said, know what you want, know why you want it, but be willing to change the how without abandoning the what, without abandoning the why. And if you're ever in the situation where you feel like you're abandoning the why, or it's not feeling in alignment anymore, it probably was a false why. What do I mean by a false why? It probably was more of a want than a burning desire, right? And so that what was a want and not a burning desire, that's okay. We can still pivot, and the how may have showed you that sooner than later, which is actually kind of nice, right? This is where it all gets to work together, because your why power, when it's your real why power, when it's that deep, juicy, big enough, will trump your willpower all day, every day. You could be out of willpower the second your feet hit the ground. This is why so many people say they want to be healthy and work out, and they give all their power away to willpower, and they get dressed even to go to the gym and never make it to the gym, which is just, they decide, and they never commit. This is why decision mastery is a big deal, because you can decide all day to do something, but the real action happens when you finally commit to doing the thing. So don't skip this part. I've seen so many people have clarity, quote unquote, on the what. And when I ask why, I get these surface answers, and it has to actually be deep. So we want to then next piece of this and next key is to set consistent and regular check-ins. So this is where you're going to assess your progress, assess the results you're getting, right? Some people are like, well, I didn't get the result. Well, you got a result. You just might not have gotten the result that you wanted, right? You intended, you expected. And then also your energy levels. Check in on what's draining you, what's fueling you, because how we do anything is how we do everything. And the same energy that it's taking you to actualize a goal or a desire in life is going to be the same energy required to most likely sustain and maintain it, unless you're going to hire that part out. And I say this in relation to business because sometimes I see solo businesspreneurs or entrepreneurs going out there and they're doing all the things, and then they start to burn out, and I thought this entrepreneurship, this owning a business thing was going to give me more time freedom and money freedom, and I just feel like an employee. Well, it's like, well, when are you going to start to buy back your time? When are you going to start to hire out some of those things, because they work really well for your business, but it's not giving you what you ultimately set up this business to be for you, right? The why, the what, the how. So and here's the cool part, the how like gets to be flexible. And when you know who you are in the mission of it, and you know who's in your corner, we really can let go of the how a little bit more. So the what, the why, the who is something I also go into in phase 1 of the Rise Up program, which is also has been since last year a self-study course as well. So when this becomes a habit for you, when you become habitual with checking in on your progress, your results, the feedback, your energy levels, you're more likely to embrace and appreciate my favorite F word, feedback. Like, I love feedback. It's not always fun to get the feedback, but I love it because it tells me and shows me what's working, what's not working, where to pivot, when to not to pivot, etc. Right? It's like learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Sometimes feedback becomes uncomfortable. How can you embrace that and start to embrace the discomfort that sometimes feedback does bring, and start to be comfortable with that and celebrate that and have gratitude for that, right? Because if you didn't have that feedback, you could fall into that insanity bucket, right? Another key is embracing that feedback to fuel you forward. I used to call it failing forward. Now I call it fueling you forward. If you're actually looking at the feedback, this external input to refine your approach, instead of stubbornly, hello, this was me, sticking to one path. Feedback doesn't make anything right or wrong, good or bad. It just is. When we have that relationship with feedback, it takes the pressure off. It feels so much better. I know it's easier said than done at first, but I promise you, when you start to fire this and wire this together as your approach to feedback, it will give you so much power in return. And we start to take our power back instead of giving it away to excuses, circumstances, or situations. So when it doesn't work out, I always say and think with gratitude, this is one more step closer to the solution. This is just one more no. This is just one more way I figured out that doesn't work that I won't do again. And one way that I can check the box that it's a not it and move on. This is a not it and move on. And lastly, I don't want to overlook, due to chasing the next step or that next level of success, is the celebration, right? We can embrace the feedback, we can check in, we can be super clear. But if we're not celebrating all the wins, big and small, mistakes and all, this is huge. I see so many people that overlook this, and I've been super guilty of this. Even to this day, I have to catch myself, because we hit the big milestone or a little milestone or a little step, and we just keep going. We're looking for that next level, that next step, that next thing. And when we recognize that progress, it actually gives us more momentum and motivation and focus. So slow down and celebrate. I even encourage my clients to say, okay, here are your intentions for 2025. Here's your intentions and goals for the first quarter. And here's the first month and the next month. And this is how we're going to check in monthly to stay on track with our intentions and possibly hit our goals sooner than later. But when and what are you going to do to celebrate? What are those little milestones that we're celebrating? And they're related to, obviously, the results that we are creating, but even more so, maybe we don't hit the result, but we didn't give up for the 10th time. Are we going to celebrate that? Hell yes, we're going to celebrate that. So go back to this episode and re-listen and take some notes and actually apply all 3 of these keys, if not at least one of them, for the next 21 days. I mean, what do you have to lose? Nothing. What do you have to gain? Actually hitting your goals, right? So here are some practical tools to cultivate this, right? We talk about visualization a lot, right? Exercising to reconnect to that vision. If you've been in my world for a while, I've always said first thing before your feet hit the ground and the last thing before you close your eyes. This is when your subconscious mind is most receptive and most vulnerable. So why aren't we pumping it full of what we desire, right? That juicy, juicy vision. Journaling to track that progress, pen to paper, reflect on the lessons learned so that we don't do it again. And when we're charting this and we're starting to hire out and buy back our time and creating a team, when you have these lessons mapped out, they start to become your structure of your business, your SOPs. Here's why we do it this way, because these 20 other ways don't work for us right now or in this specific situation or circumstance. The absolute best journaling tool, obviously, are my power prompts, right? They're the 7 simple quality questions that cover the celebrations, that cover how to look for pivots, and how to honor and release those things that no longer are serving you, and to create that feedback to stay on track with attaining your goals and with intention and doing it intentionally without giving your power away. So go grab those power prompts if you haven't. I've been talking about them for the past few days. I just created a bonus video that goes with it, with those prompts for you just 2 days ago. No, yeah, 2 days ago. So go grab it. It's yours. And I promise you, each month that you use them, those will be your best months. The months that you don't use them, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, right? And gratitude. This is the one thing I almost left out of here because it becomes so habitual for me, but it's not habitual for everyone. Practicing that gratitude to stay grounded and energized as you attract what you are. And gratitude is also one of the highest frequencies, right up there with love. So when you are in gratitude and you're attracting what you are, you can't help but attract more to be grateful for. And when you're visualizing and practicing and saying and listening to your vivid vision, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, linking that with the gratitude, your body can't help but to be grateful for something that is well on its way, if not already being actualized right before your very eyes. So I promised to keep this short because I said there's a part 2. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Pause and reflect on your current goals. Are you already having regrets? Are you persevering, or are you on the borderline of insanity here already 10 days into the year? Are you about ready to repeat 2024 in 2025 when we needed to leave much of 2024 in 2024? Honor and release with gratitude anything that was not serving you and step into this year, not as a new you, new year. That's so cliche and it drives me bonkers when people say that, but it's a better you. It's a better next level and next version of you that you're committing to. So this is how we wrap up this today, because nothing happens until you commit. Nothing happens until you commit to one change that allows you, empowers you to stay aligned and flexible with your approach, the how. Remember that this journey is just as important as the destination. Right? How many of you have been guilty like me, just chasing the destination? The journey's great and we're savoring pieces of the journey, but are we really enjoying the journey? Are we really creating fulfillment? Because success without fulfillment isn't success in my world. I don't know about you, but if I think 20 years from now, 50 years from now, am I looking at those milestones, or am I looking at the whole picture? And am I choosing the growth and fulfillment over stubbornness? Because I wish somebody would have said this to me earlier in my life, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? And don't forget, I'm going to be doing part 2 next week. We're going to be jumping into the juiciness of some mindset components of the perseverance versus insanity, and actually how insane radical results can be a result of perseverance without crossing that fine line. Sharing some amazing backstories on some amazing companies that actually learned to adapt, and showing you how they pivoted and persevered versus some of the companies that got stuck and burnt out and no longer exist because they didn't pivot or persevere, right? Perseverance isn't about doing the same thing forever. Please let that land. I'm going to say it again. Perseverance isn't about doing the same thing forever. We are evolving, adapting, growing human beings. But let's not forget that the human beingness is the experience for our spirit. We're actually these spirits having the human experience. So we don't have to do the same thing forever. Actually, that's not what we were designed to do forever, right? It's about doing the aligned thing, what feels good, what fulfills us long enough to hit that point of the result of this or something better, which we call success, and continue to pivot and adjust and pivot and adjust in the slightest bit or in massive ways until we continue that spectrum of next level of fulfillment, next level of AKA fuller fulfillment, AKA fuller success, right? All while choosing, again, what brings us joy, what fills us up, what is fun, what is playful, what is fulfilling in both business and life along the way. Again, because success without fulfillment simply is not success. So when you're reviewing your intentions, when you're reviewing your goals, how many of those are a old paradigm success goal and how many of those are new paradigm fulfillment goals, intentions? And with that, I'm going to send you off with so much love. Until next time, bye for now.